Welcome back. It is Oscar weekend. The nominations dropped weeks ago, and it seems like everybody has something to say. Joining me this morning is a professor at Ball State University. She's an expert on the history of Hollywood award shows, all things around it, and particularly how they impact our culture at large. It is Dr. Monica Sandler. Dr. Sandler, good morning and welcome to WVON.
Hello, good morning.
It's so good to have you. These award shows, I mean, just a few years ago, it seemed that we were certainly boycotting them because Oscar's so white. That is
Mhm.
to some degree. Talk to us about why these award shows are so important in our
Mhm.
culture and how they impact these different aspects of it.
Mhm. Yeah, and certainly this year is a really good showcase of how the industry has been impacted since the Oscar So White controversy. 10 years ago, we have a film like Sinners, which was broke the record for the most nominations this year. So it has 16 nominations, a heavy frontrunner at the race this Sunday. So there has been transformations in Hollywood. The thing that I think is always really important about these events, and in some ways, they're this silly festivities, but also at the same time, they kind of hold a mirror up to what the industry is actually looking at. And one of the things that was really powerful about Oscar So White, which was a decade ago, was the ability for the event to really call attention to systemic exclusion in the industry. And I think that was what was really important. They also can be kind of a shield in that if we're looking at the Oscars are a byproduct of a much wider, problematic industry. But I think that was really powerful, particularly about social media movements, is that it really, did call attention to things.
Who is making the decisions about who gets nominated and who's making decisions about who wins these awards ultimately?
Yeah, so the way that the academy is broken down is it's based off of branch. So there are various different branches for the different fields. So if there's a best sound category, there's a sound branch, basically. And so you have the membership bodies of each one of the different branches that are then voting for the nominees in their branch, and then they vote for Best Picture. So actors are only voting for Best Actor in the nominations process, and they're voting for Best Picture in the process. When you go to the final, everyone who's a member of the Academy votes across the board for everyone, all of the different categories. And if you don't totally understand how sound mixing works, a lot of people who are members of the academy don't necessarily either, because they're in completely different subsets of the industry, which I think shows just sort of the inherent flaws of the system that are also present there. And on the issue of diversity and representation, in 2016, when the Academy announced that they were going to overhaul diversity of their membership, when you looked at the breakdowns of these branches, like the percentage of like minority voices and also women, particularly in like cinematography, was the Academy itself was 90% white. Branches like the producers, executives branches were something like 97% white. So when you start to look at the breakdown, it becomes very apparent why there's a systemic issue in the academy, and then also within the context of the wider industry. There are so few executives who are people who are in that position of an executive, and it's an honorary organization. So it's about there being opportunity and then the recognition that comes from joining the academy.
Have they gotten better? Are they more diverse? Do they reflect society as society is?
They've gotten more diverse, but there's a caveat to it. So a lot of the Academy, after the Oscar So White scandal, announced that they were going to double diversity numbers by 2020, which of course meant going from 90% white to 80% white. So there's still a lot of issues there. But the key thing is they did not do that by drastically transforming Hollywood, though there has been an impact. And there has been improvement. The way that they did that was becoming a more international organization. So they've become much more global oriented. That's how a film like Parasite won Best Picture in 2020, which it was unheard of prior to that time, but it also at the same time is very indicative of like what is the overall impact of the industry and how much can the Oscars ultimately change things. I mean, the way I think about them is they're a lens at looking at the industry. They're an incredibly flawed lens, but that's why I'm so fascinated with them, is because they sort of showed this mirror of what's going on in the industry and the flaws with it in a way that few other cultural events that are Hollywood geared at least do it.
Interesting. And indeed, if you can't change a picture from Hollywood, then you can't change a picture, depending on how you want to see it.